most Kenyans who talk about moving to America, they make it sound easy that you can post a certificate, pass an exam, board a plane. What they don't tell you is that for someone like me, my family spent over 1.1 million shillings. We had to wait 4 years. And there were moments I genuinely wasn't sure it was going to work. Now, this is not a motivational video. This is the actual process, what you will go through, stage by stage, cost by cost, exam by exam, from someone who went through it with my wife, with 2 kids, and with everything on the line. I'm going to show you exactly where the money went. And I'm running a live total on screen as we go. So you see the real number build up the same way we lived it. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how the EB3 NAS visa works. Every stage, every fee, every weight, and what nobody on the internet bothers to tell you about being the spouse in this situation. So right now, running cost is at 0. The first time I heard about the EB3 visa was 2016. A friend of ours mentioned it in passing, something about nurses being able to go work in America through a sponsorship program. Now, we had it, my wife noted it, we filed it away, and then we ignored it. The truth is, she was working at one of the top hospitals in Nairobi. The work was stable, it was paying well, career was growing, and honestly, at that time, leaving Kenya wasn't the plan. Then 2021 happened. A friend of hers, another nurse, actually did it. And we saw her do the whole process. She actually completed the process and then she left. And from what she was able to do in a short period of time, started gnawing at us because it changed everything. My wife came home one evening and the conversation was different. Now, the conversation wasn't, can we do this? We're now talking about how do we start? And honestly, my first thought, and I'll be honest with you, the first thought wasn't even excitement. My thought was, how much is this going to cost us? And that question never really went away because this process, it costs money, real money, not Fuliza money, not your Chama contribution money. We are talking about a multi-year financial commitment for a family of 4. But here's what I know now that I did not know then. The cost of not going, it was higher. Not in money, in the opportunity that would have walked away from. So we started. And what I'm about to walk you through is exactly what that starting and the 4 years that followed looked like. And I'll take you stage by stage and shilling by shilling. This first step is the one most people skip in the research phase because it sounds boring. It's not boring. It's where the process can die before it even starts. It's free to get right. So before you engage any agency, before you book any exam, look at all your civil documents, your birth certificate, your marriage certificates, your academic certificates from primary school all the way to campus, nursing school of Council of Kenya registration. Any document with your name or your spouse's name needs to be clean and consistent. And if your name is spelled one way on your birth certificate and differently on your degree, that's an amendment process. So go on eCitizen, Huduma Center. Sometimes it even takes you to school. It takes government time, so sort it first before anything else starts. Now, here's something most people get backwards. The agency decision doesn't come after you've started the credential verification process. It comes first. For us, we started with Avant Healthcare Professionals in 2022. They're a legitimate agency. They asked us to do IELTS, which is the English Language Proficiency Exam. We prepared, she sat for it, and then through a conversation with a friend, she found out about O'Grady Payton International, or OGP. They operate a little different, but the pathway is a little different, but the same destination. So she switched. Now, here's a detail that matters for your planning. OGP required the IELTS exam to already be complete before they would even begin helping with the CGFNS process. The agency choice and the English exam aren't separate. So your agency's requirements determine what order you do things in. So before you commit to an agency, ask them directly, what do you need from me before you'll start processing my CGFNS application? Get that answer on your email if you can, and it changes your entire sequence. The IELTS exam itself cost us 30,000 shillings. That's stage one of spending. And it happens before the agency does anything else for you. Once the IELTS is done, the CGFNS process opens up. The Commission on Graduates of Foreign Nursing Schools verifies that your Nursing Council of Kenya registration and your training meets US standards. Alongside this, there is verification needed from the Nursing Council itself and from KMTC if that's where you trained. So for us, this stage cost us about 25,000 shillings combined. That's Nursing Council plus KMTC. On top of that, once you've committed to your agency, there's a commitment fee that locks in their support through the rest of the process. 20,000 shillings. We are at 75,000 shillings total at this point, and she has not even sat the NCLEX yet. While you're waiting on CGFNS confirmation, the agency runs you through competency tests. These are not optional extras. They are how the agency confirms you actually have the clinical knowledge to safely sit the NCLEX and eventually work in a US hospital. Treat them seriously. They're a preview of what the real exam expects of you. Now, before you even get to the NCLEX, there is a licensing decision that catches almost everyone off guard. Most US states need a social security number to process a nursing license application. But think about what that means. You need a license to get a job offer. You need a job offer to get a visa. You need a visa to enter the country, and you need to be in the country to get a social security number. It's a circle. Illinois breaks it. Illinois doesn't require an SSN for the application. It only asks for an affidavit of your status. That's why you'll see nurses from all over the world getting licensed under Illinois and such states, regardless of where they end up working. The initial Illinois licensure cost us 15,000 shillings. The Illinois NCLEX testing fee, separate from the exam sitting cost itself, was 26,000 shillings. And here's a part that adds up over time. Illinois licenses expire and need renewal every 2 years. Our process took 4 years. So my wife renewed that license twice, including a renewal just a month before we actually flew out. Each renewal isn't huge on its own, but it's a recurring cost that most people don't budget for because they're focused on the bigger one-off times. Build it in as a recurring line item so that it does not surprise you. So once CGFNS is received, you can now book the NCLEX itself. But you don't just book it and walk in. You need what is called authority to test, or ATT. And the agency only allows you to get that once you've hit their required pass rate on their mock exams. This is the agency protecting both you and themselves. So if you're not consistently passing the mocks at the level that they require, you're not ready. And they will tell you that directly. This is also where I need to be honest about the real cost of failure. If you go and do the NCLEX and fail, you retake it at your own cost. There's a mandatory wait of 45 days before you can sit again, but only if your ATT is still active. If it's expired by the time your 45 days are up, you have to apply for a brand new ATT before you can rebook. That's additional time and additional agency coordination on top of the exam fee itself. Now, the NCLEX exam fee, sitting in India where she went to do it, is currently at around 50,000 shillings. On top of that, personal costs, Uber, meals, the logistics of being in a foreign country for exam days came to about 20,000 shillings. My wife had to let things go in this season. Social commitments, side hustles, distractions, and not forever, just for that window. Because the NCLEX has a real pass rate problem among internationally educated nurses who underestimate it. And a failed attempt doesn't just cost money, it costs the 45-day wait, possibly a new ATT, and also the momentum you do not get back easily. Lucky for us, she passed in one sitting, and the moment she passed, the entire process shifted gear. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, you already know this is more detailed than what is floating around online. So go ahead and like this video. It genuinely helps the next Kenyan nurse or nurse's spouse find this before they make an expensive mistake. Make sure to subscribe as well. We are tracking this story all the way to our first 90 days in America. Now, after the NCLEX, the employer files what is known as I-140, which is the immigrant petition for alien workers. At this stage, there's an option worth knowing about called premium processing. It speeds up the I-140 adjudication significantly, but it costs more. I'd tell you to check whether it is still being offered when you are at this stage, because USCIS adjusts these programs over time. It took us about 2 weeks after this for us to be told to fill in the DS-260 forms. And I want you to understand what the DS-260 actually is, because most people treat it as just another form. It is not. This is like your first interview. Every detail you enter here, your employment history, family information, addresses, travel history, is what the consular officer pulls up and uses when you sit up for the actual visa interview later. If something is inconsistent between the DS-260 and what you say in person, that inconsistency becomes a problem. Fill this with total accuracy and take your time on it. Remember, integrity is key. Now, for our family of 4, this particular stage cost us 180,000 shillings. It's $345 per person. From the DS-260 submission, it took us roughly 3 months to reach what is known as case complete, meaning every document is in and it has been verified. Now, this is a stage that tests everyone who goes through this process. From case complete, it took us 24 months, 2 years, for our dates to become current. Every month, the US State Department publishes a visa bulletin with final action dates for each category and country. If your priority date is earlier than the published date, you're current and you move forward. If not, you wait. What almost nobody explains properly is retrogression. This is when the final action date moves backward instead of forward. The US issues a limited number of visas per category each year. And when the global demand outpaces that cap, the State Department pulls the dates back to control the flow. We hit a retrogression period during our wait. And I want to be honest about what that feels like. You've done everything. Your documents are clean. Your exam is passed, case complete. You're watching a date creep towards yours for months, and then it jumps backward by a year. Every part of you wants to quit in that moment. We didn't. We checked the bulletin together every single month. We renewed the Illinois license when it came due. We stayed in contact with the agency. We kept each other encouraged through it because this is the stage where the process tests the relationship as much as it tests the paperwork. Our dates finally became current as of December 2025. Appointment date arrived on December 31st, 2025. Now, once you've known your interview date, you schedule your medical examination through the International Organization for Migration, IOM. Every family member immigrating goes through this, including the children. Here's something practical that saved us real money. OGP nurses have a WhatsApp group where people share exactly which vaccination IOM will require and what the current standards are. Use it. Get ahead of a vaccination schedule the moment you know roughly when your interview is coming. Because some vaccines need to be administered within a specific window. Some 6 months before, some only within 30 days of your actual IOM appointment. Not before and not after. If you walk into IOM still needing vaccinations, you pay for them there. And it costs significantly more than getting them done in advance through your normal healthcare provider. Ours cost us about 110,000 shillings for the four of us, and that number was only that manageable because we'd already completed about 99% of the required vaccination beforehand. We walked in there and we only needed one vaccination. If we had walked in unprepared, this stage alone would have cost noticeably more. The exam itself covers a full physical, blood tests, TB screening, and vaccination review. There are 3 outcomes here. A clean result and your paperwork moves straight to the embassy. A minor issue, whether it is a flag that needs monitoring, which delays you but doesn't end the process, or a major issue, which is rare, but it involves further evaluation. For most families, including ours, it's a fast outcome if you prepare properly. Now let's move to the interview date. This was being done at the US Embassy in Nairobi. We arrived at 4:28 in the morning. Guess when we woke up? For 6 a.m. appointment. We were second in line. Inside, your DS-260 gets reviewed against everything that you submitted. The officer asks questions to confirm eligibility, and at the end, you receive a colored form. Green means approval. Your documents go into a sealed packet, couriered to you. You don't open it. You hand it unopened to Customs and Border Protection on arrival, which means your case, if you get white, it means your case needs further USCIS processing, usually a documentation gap at the federal level. Yellow means the consulate needs more time to review your documentation. It's not a rejection of your character. It triggers administrative processing, which can run from about 60 days to 6 months or even more. Pink means the officer has specific concerns about your documentation or work-related details and requires the most serious follow-up, often with your agency legal support. We received a yellow form after everything. 4 years, hundreds of thousands of shillings, 4:28 a.m. arrival. We left that day without a visa and waited another 2 months. So if you receive a yellow form, I want you to hear me clearly. It's not a denial. It's a consulate doing their job carefully. Submit anything requested promptly, stay in contact with your agency, and wait. Ours finally came through. Now, once a visa is issued, you send the visa page to your agency and you'll receive an email instructing you to pay for what is called the immigrant fee, sometimes referred informally as the green card processing fee. For us, that came to 122,000 shillings. One more cost before you leave Kenyan soil, the flight itself. For a family of 4 flying to Atlanta, that was 552,000 shillings. That single line item nearly doubles everything that you've spent up to that point. So book it the moment your visa validity window is confirmed. Prices only get worse closer to your travel date. And at this scale, a last minute booking can cost you tens of thousands more. I want to pause the cost breakdown here and talk about something the numbers do not capture. In most EB3 content online, the conversation is entirely about the nurse. The spouse is a footnote, eligible for derivative visa. That's not the reality of what this process actually is. My role was to be the anchor, not the star. When she was buried in NCLEX prep, I held down everything else: the kids, the home, finances, the energy in the house. When she doubted herself 2 weeks before the exam, I wasn't there to process feelings with her. I was there to say, "You've prepared, sit down, study." I had a business in Nairobi, clients, networks, a brand. Getting on that plane meant pausing all of it, possibly rebuilding from nothing on the other side. We talked about that honestly before we decided, and again when it became real. This is a decision you make together or you don't make it at all. I entered on a spousal derivative visa tied to my wife's EB3 classification. We came in together. Atlanta was our destination from day one. So add it all up: the IELTS, CGFNS, council verifications, the agency fee, the Illinois licensure and its renewals, NCLEX, the personal costs, DS260 for 4 people, the IOM medicals, the immigrant fee and the flight itself, and the number you see on screen is 1,150,000 shillings, over 1.1 million. There's no guarantee anywhere in this process. You do everything right and retrogression still happens. You arrive at 4:28 a.m. and still walk out without a visa that day. So why did we do it? Because we decided the life available to our family on the other side of that sacrifice was worth more than the certainty we were protecting by staying. The intake process in the US after all of that was the simplest thing we've done in years. After 4 years of the portals, renewals, bulletin checks, and agency emails, it took us less than 30 minutes to be processed into the country. My wife's start date is coming at her job. We are in pre-work prep, setting into the new home. I'm registering the business here. The work doesn't stop because the continent change, it just rebuilds. The people who make it through this are not the ones with the most money or the cleanest paperwork or the greenest form at the interview. They're the ones who budgeted for the renewals nobody talks about, who kept checking the bulletin after retrogression hit, and who didn't panic when yellow showed up instead of green. Pesa tulitumia. Time inaweza kuwa ulipoteza, lakini opportunity like this, you don't find it twice. And if you're somewhere in this process right now, I want you to comment below and tell me what stage you're at. I'll personally respond. Make sure to subscribe because the next video will show you the first 90 days in America: banking, social security, schools, and everything that comes after the visa. Sisi wa Kenya tunajua kustruggle, lakini sasa jua pia tunaweza. See you in the next one.